O great chieftain, I come to you, seeking knowledge.
And what troubles you, young one?
I must know the history of the Tauren. Tell me everything, for I must know.
Well, our history is not one that can be told. It must be experienced.
Oh, by the Earth Mother? Where am I?
Long, long ago, when Azeroth flourished in its infancy, the Tauren were not Tauren. They were actually a race called the Yaungol. These similar race of bovine beasts were taught by the demigod Cenarius about how to live in harmony with nature, and for thousands of years, the Yaungol lived in central Kalimdor. They thrived off the bountiful lands and hunted game for food. Quite frankly, it was a paradise. That was until an invasive enemy marched on their lands. The rambunctious trolls traveled from far-off lands from the east and competed with the Yaungol for the natural resources around central Kalimdor. And quite frankly, it was really frustrating having to compete with the trolls dominating their hunting grounds. Instead of waging war with the tusked freaks, the Yaungol instead chose to migrate and travel down south in search of new territory. Cenarius pleaded for them to stay, but the Yaungol were already off to greener pastures.
You look pretty tasty.
What? No, I am not something to taste. Please, Yaungol, come back. Oh my goodness, please.
And so, the Yaungol traveled south to a place that would be known as Pandaria. But little did they know, they were the ones being hunted. The Yaungol had made a grave mistake and were enslaved by the Mogu, a tyrant race that had enslaved all other inhabitants in southern Kalimdor.
You dope mankin, brick chicken, hoop for brain, sticky stealing, nib grubbing, dibs, nibbling, face jumper!
Kneel before your new masters!
For generations upon generations, the Yaungol suffered as servants for the Mogu. The most monumental project they slaved away on was the Serpent's Spine, a great wall that divided their territory from the ravenous Mantid, even though the Mantid could fly.
The unworthy have not yet learned of my power.
The Yaungol and the other servants of the Mogu suffered for thousands of years under the tyranny of Lei Shen. With the Thunder King at the helm of their empire, the Mogu were an unstoppable army who threatened to control all of Azeroth if left unchecked. But then Lei Shen made the biggest mistake of his life, and he allied with a troll. Long story short, Lei Shen and the Zandalari leader went on a mission together in Oldham for more power, and they accidentally blew up. This sudden removal of a leader created a power vacuum within the Mogu Empire, and they constantly cycled through new emperors, each one being more brutal than the last. The final emperor was a Mogu named Lao Fei, a ruler who held no sympathy for his subjects. A common punishment for disobedient slaves was to take their children and send them off to the Serpent's Spine and use them as fodder against the local mantid.
I'm growing a beard.
Now, in secret, the Yaungol and the other enslaved races banded together and worked to overthrow their Mogu rulers. But look, I'll be honest with you, really the reason why the slaves all got liberated was because there was this Pandaren named Kang who learned how to use Kung Fu, and he taught all the other Pandaren how to learn Kung Fu, and the Yaungol were there kind of just existing. Kang later went on to direct 3 films about his experiences, and also suffered mortal wounds from his battle with the Mogu. The Yaungol, on the other hand, split into 2 lines of thinking. One group decided to remain in southern Kalimdor and developed an aggressive, warlike culture, but the bulk of the bovines moved back up north to return to Cenarius, whose tales were only a distant memory now in their culture. Some of these Yaungol decided to play life on hard mode and moved all the way up to the north to the frozen tundra. These tribes would eventually turn into the Tonka, who live in communities like Icemist Village, a safe haven surrounded by waterfalls, where if it actually existed, it would sound like,
Hello, can you hear me? Who the hell decided to make a village surrounded by giant waterfalls?
Anyways, the bulk of the Yaungol returned to their homelands once again, bracing themselves to deal with the torrent of annoyance that the trolls brought on their land.
Oh hey, remember those troll guys? Well, I made them look like myself. How cool is that?
Greetings.
In central Kalimdor, there is a font of unlimited arcane power called the Well of Eternity. This raw power had transformed the local trolls into the Kaldurai we know today, aka the Night Elves. This raw arcane power transformed the Yaungol into the Tauren.
Mo, are you happy now?
These 2 magically enhanced races lived in relative peace for thousands of years and learned about nature and stuff, but their cultures never really integrated together because a lot of Kaldurai didn't want to mingle with such a bestial and nomadic race like the Tauren. But, you know, that kind of all changed when Queen Azshara, the leader of the Kaldurai, made a pact with Sargeras and summoned a bunch of demons onto Azeroth. Suddenly, a bunch of demons are all over Azeroth and the world is thrown into chaos. Amongst the destruction, there's only one instance recorded in history of the Tauren fighting back against the demonic invasion. Huln High Mountain, the chieftain of the High Mountain, united the surrounding tribes and worked with the Kaldurai resistance to fight back against the demons. During the war, Huln saved a moose named Ekaro, who was favored by the ancient stag spirit Malorn. And in return, Cenarius blessed Huln and his tribe by granting them all moose horns. Yeah, I guess Cenarius wasn't really one for subtlety. Anyways, this war ended with the elves causing problems like they always do, and the entire world exploded. The Tauren had persevered through the radical changes of Azeroth's landscape, and remained a tribalistic race that settled upon the plains of Kalimdor. Above all else, it was the Tauren's mission to live in perfect harmony with the Earth Mother. The Earth Mother is the representation of Azeroth herself, an omnipotent goddess who the Tauren revere and swear to protect. It is said that the Earth Mother watches over her children with the sun and the moon. The sun is named Anshi, and the moon is named Musha. Musha is also worshipped by the Night Elves, who call her Elune, a mysterious goddess I wish we knew nothing about. One region that was particularly sacred to the Tauren was the grasslands of Mashanshi, also known as the Loom of the Earth Mother. There were radiating elemental whispers beneath these lands that led the Tauren to believe that the Earth Mother herself rested underneath. For decades, experienced Tauren shamans worked on awakening their goddess from the earth. Countless times they meditated, countless times they granted their goddess with offerings, and countless times they prayed for an answer. And eventually, the goddess that dwelled beneath them answered their call.
Run! Retreat!
What dwelled beneath was no Earth Mother. It was the enormous Earth Elemental known as Princess Theradras. The enraged princess devoured all life around her, making the once fertile lands of Mashanshi into the barren wasteland called Desolus. This sudden, dramatic loss of life sent ripples throughout the Emerald Dream, and caught the attention of Cenarius. Such a catastrophic disaster could not be ignored, and Cenarius sent his son, Zetar, to investigate the disturbance within Kalandor. Zetar readied himself for the horrors to come. Whatever nightmarish creature brought such a radical destruction to their radiant natural lands surely was a foe not to be trifled with. Zetar's first reaction was not fear, but arousal. The life that Princess Theradras had consumed made her the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. Her pebbly face, her buxom mineral chest, and oh, don't get me started on that bouldery bedrock of a fat dumpy. The two became forbidden lovers, and they made love. Yes, this is the actual lore as stated in page 144 of the Warcraft Chronicles Volume 1. From this event, the centaur were born. When Zetar came to after the rebelly coitus, he realized the error of his ways. The centaur were a malformed, smelly, low-polygon bastardization of the Keepers of the Grove. They were a stain on Azeroth that could not be easily wiped clean. The centaur took note of their father, who looked down on them in disgust, and they killed him. This bastard race then spread like a plague across Kalandor. While the Tauren focused on balance with nature, the centaur did the opposite. The barbaric race pillaged and overhunted the tranquil lands of Kalandor. Every creature they came across was met with unbridled hostility. For the next 1,000 years, the various Tauren tribes scattered across Kalandor, only united by their mutual distaste for the centaur. The warmongering horsemen would strike the Tauren not out of necessity, but for sport. The Tauren, on the other hand, had no love for war and would deplete all options before combat. Some Tauren made the grave mistake of calling the centaur's mom fat, which only enraged the horsemen even more because the Tauren were right. The Tauren had been pushed to the very brink of extinction. Their approach to the situation needed to change, and fast. Cairn Bloodhoof, chieftain of the Bloodhoof tribe, decided that perhaps recruiting an ally would be the best strategy. his first choice was obvious. Perhaps the Night Elves, who had a history with the Tauren, could assist. I mean, they cared about life on Azeroth almost as much as the Tauren, so surely they would help.
Hey guys, remember how your people kind of sort of blew the whole world up? Well, maybe you can repay us and help us with the centaur problem because, they'll probably kill all you guys after they're done killing us, so, could you help? Pretty please?
The Tauren received no response. Well, their first choice clearly wasn't an option, but as Karen and his tribe roamed the desert plains of Durotar, they stumbled upon a surprising new ally.
I am Cairn, chief of the Bloodhoof Tauren. Loktar, friend. What is it you wish?
Although the Tauren and the Orcs and the Darkspear Trolls had very different backgrounds, they quickly realized that they shared very similar ideals. They were all honorable people, and Karen and the other Tauren could teach these races of the Horde the spiritual ways of shamanism. In return, the Horde could assist them with driving back the centaur from their lands. Also, Karen could help Thrall with a spirit quest because he was looking for Medivh, but that's a long story. Point is, the Tauren, the Darkspear Trolls, and the Orcish bromance was in full force, and with their armies combined, they fought their way through the heart of Centaur territory.
Ishnealo Parak, for honor! Blood and thunder! All the tribes!
The Horde's combined might had driven the Centaur back, letting the Tauren be able to thrive once more in their ancestral lands of Mulgore. Karen and his tribe were forever in Warchief Thrall's debt, vowing to ally themselves with the Horde no matter what happens next. Upon the peaks of Mulgore, the Bloodhoof tribe established the village of Thunderbluff, a safe haven for all Tauren tribes and members of the Horde to settle. And from that day forward, the Tauren remained as proud members of the Horde. Even though Karen was later murdered by a war chief of the Horde years later, but again, that's a story for another time.
Wake up. Wake up. Hey, wake up!
Whoa, why am I in jail? I just had the craziest dream ever.
A dream? That was no dream, young one. I've never seen someone react to those herbs that way.
Get away from me, you Mogu! Oh, they're so big and large and made of stone. Oh, I hate them so much. Get away from me, you demon. You're all demons. Get away, you fell guards and...
A Tauren, a Yaungol, and a Tonka walk into a bar. Oh, this isn't a joke. It's my family reunion.
Oh, by the Earth Mother's bosom! What are you doing? You're lucky Karen's son, Chieftain Bane, isn't here, or you'd be excommunicated from Thunderbluff.
Oh, thank the Earth Mother he's not here, but where is he?
Well, you see, Bane Bloodhoof has gone on a valorous mission for his people. He has traveled to another reality called the Shadowlands, a place filled with horrific beings that we could not even imagine. Alas, I am sure our chieftain is making the Tauren proud, defending the universe from whatever may come our way.